So in assignment 4, we're going to take our creature design from assignment 2, and we are going to paint it in kind of an agile way as a cloud form. And we want it to be a believable cloud form. So I'm going to open up my finished creature in Photoshop that's isolated from the background, the same creature I used to integrate into my landscape for my creaturescape assignment 3. And yeah, it can be a TIFF or even a PSD as long as you merge all the visible layers together and don't have a background. So something like this. And then I'm going to go and do a Google image search. Very familiar by now. And I'm going to search for clouds. Now, I might want to be more specific depending on my creature. My creature is big and puffy, so I'm going to search for big puffy clouds, cumulus clouds, maybe even storm clouds. And I'm not a cloud expert. But what I want to do is limit my search tools to a size that's larger than, let's do 6 megapixels. Clouds are soft, so we can lose a little bit of resolution. And you'll see lots of options. But I want to find clouds that will really work for my creature. So this is a good one right here. Open in a new tab. This is a good one. Don't worry if the colors don't match exactly. That's part of the game. This is a nice, bright, puffy one. This might help with some of the appendages, like the arms and legs. Okay, and then it's good to have just some extra textures. Now, this starts, because we're working really quickly, this starts as a compositing project. And so I'm going to just make a quick folder on the desktop. I don't need these anymore. I'm going to call it Cloud Reference. Now your creature might be long and stringy, and you might pick very different clouds than I picked. But as long as they're clouds and they're large enough, they're going to work just fine. This is not what I'm looking for. That's why you look up close at your images before you copy them over. This is not the best quality photo, but the texture is good. That's not going to work. And that's why I always open link in a new tab, because it allows me to easily go back to my searches and just extend them. But this is plenty to get me started. Okay, 4 or 5 references. And I can always go back and get more. There's a lot of nice raw material there. We're only worried about the cloud. We're not worried about the sky behind or the ground. We just want good pictures of clouds. But one thing we need to pay attention to is their lighting. The direction of lighting is fairly important when you talk about clouds. That one's too small. All right, so now that I have some reference, what am I going to do in Photoshop? I'm going to take my creature. Already this is a high enough resolution, right? This for assignment 2, this is already around 11 by 14 by 350 pixels per inch. So what I will do now is find kind of the most overall large cloud, and I like to make my icons nice and big in my reference windows. And this one looks like a good overall cloud for me to use. So I'm going to take that cloud, I'm going to drop it in as a smart layer, and I'm going to make it huge. It's like rolling out dough, and then I'm going to do a cookie cutter. Okay, so I'm making it huge. I want it huge enough because I'm just going to make the shape of my creature with a cloud texture that when I take its opacity down, my entire creature is contained within the shape of that cloud. So I'm almost there. Let me just nudge it up a little. And there we have I'll hit return. Now I have a huge cloud in front of my creature, right? This is just like what we've been doing for texture fills, right? Kind of a cloud texture in front of him. But now we're going to practice moving selections. So the first thing I need to do, since I want to modify this cloud, I might want to rasterize it. And I'm going to clean up that little storm cloud there, which is going to mess it up. And I'm going to fill it with, I'm going to lasso around it, and I'm just going to do edit, fill, content aware to fill it with the cloud texture in a believable way. What's great about clouds is they're an organic texture. So we're just going to use this as our palette for painting. But the way we get started is we go to our base layer, we use our lasso, we select around, we use refine edge, we're just practicing these same skills, we shift the edge to expand it a little bit, at just a slight radius with a slight feathering. We say OK. And we're selecting the outside space, right? And then what we're going to do is turn on our cloud layer and click on it, and you see that our selection moves with us. And I can either hit delete and just delete all of the cloud outside of my creature, or if I don't want to lose all that reference, I can hit select inverse and then just duplicate Command J that shape. But because of the way I used the refine edge, you'll see that this gives me a little bit of a weird edge on my shadow. So I'm going to go the other way, the simpler way, and simply do it like a cookie cutter. Take the shape around my creature, move it to my cloud layer, and just cut it away, delete it. Okay, then I'll deselect. Now to soften it even more, I'm going to select that empty space, I'm going to refine edge, and this time I'm going to cut it in a lot more. So you get the sense of refining your selections at a higher radius. And with much more feathering. So I'll take that hard edge and I'm going to hit delete a lot of times, and it will kind of bite away at the edge. Okay? So what you're seeing are the edges of my creature behind this cloud mass, and you'll see how soft that cloud mass is at the edge, because clouds are not hard objects. So we want to start playing with this soft edge. But this is where we want to start. So now to cover up my creature, though he's going to be in the final composite, what I'm going to do is select him, transform him a lot smaller, and just put him in the corner of my composition. So maybe I'll tuck him in over here so we know what kind of creature we're trying to match. Wherever he might look best. And I don't know yet. I'll just put him there for now. But now to get a sense of what our cloud is going to be, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to move that behind everything. And I'm going to paint with a gradation the sky behind this cloud. Now, if you look at my reference, especially the one I stole this cloud from, it's darker at the top, lighter on the bottom. I actually really like it in this image. So let me open this in Photoshop, and I'll steal the colors directly from it. Swoop that out. Okay, what I'm going to do is use, for the first time, the color selector tool. In my foreground color, I want this kind of dark blue. And then I'm going to use this little switcheroo arrow. And in my background color, I want this light blue. So I'm going to paint a gradation going from the dark blue to the light blue. I'm going to do it on the layer behind, and I'm going to use not the paint bucket tool, which just paints one flat color, but the gradient tool. I want the normal linear gradient, and I get to choose the angle. So maybe I'll just do a slight angle down like this. Click and drag. And I can keep adjusting that until it feels like it fits the lighting of my scene well. So I have a nice little kind of artificial painted in sky. And that's our first step. So I'm going to save this as my cloud creature, assignment 4. Remember, you don't want to save over your creature collage. So I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to change its destination to the desktop. And I will save it as a Photoshop file. And this is where we'll start next class. So I got lucky because the edges of the clouds I use already kind of make sense and differentiate this arm from the head, from even the plates on the back. But there's a lot I need to do to make this look more believable as a cloud and still suggest my creature. So how I'm going to do that is by basically painting and compositing at the same time. And instead of painting with just single colors, I'm going to paint with the clone stamp. And I'm going to paint with textures from composites. So for instance, these different clouds that I've brought in, I might start layering these up now on top. And this should feel very familiar now. You know, choosing chunks, duplicating it, and then deleting the smart layer. So I have that texture I can use. Maybe I'll use that for something. I'm going to push it off to the edge for now. Maybe move it behind. Bring in some other clouds. What do I want to use here? Well, probably this stuff might be somewhat useful. Not to use as an element on its own, but just to clone stamp from, to kind of paint with. That's more yellow, so I might have to adjust those colors. I can do that right away. It's not a smart object anymore, so I can go to color balance. I can take out that yellow, take out that pink, give it a little bit more cyan. And I might have to just desaturate it a little bit overall. And then of course there's always levels. So we're just getting more and more practice at these same skills. Making it a texture that I can more easily use. I thought this one would be really useful for the appendages and kind of showing believable appendages. It's because clouds aren't solid all the way through. They get thick and they get thin and they get pulled at by the wind. Ooh, that rhymes. It's beautiful. This already looks like kind of a rock monster. But the first step is what we've already done, just cutting the silhouette of your creature out like a cookie out of the cloud texture. And we're going to build up on top of that. All right. Very fast way to start developing something. And we'll continue on that with the next demo next class. It's going to be a one-day project, so we're going to continue it next class and try to upload it next class. What I mean by believable appendages, you see kind of the openings of sky coming through. Things are pulled apart in different directions. I need to be willing to do that on elements on my creature to make it more believable. All right, so I'm going to save it. And then, of course, it's good to be organized. So I'm going to take my cloud reference folder and I'm going to put it all into an assignment 4 folder that will go into my digital art folder. And then the other thing that's going to